All right, it looks like we are right at 10 o'clock. So I want to welcome everybody to today's webinar. Thank you for joining wherever you are in the world. Before we get started, I would like to introduce myself and my fellow hosts today. I'm Gabe Perigine, and I'll be the MC for today. We also have Jonathan Gerrois, who is our Senior Director of Marketing. We have David McClure, who is a guest here. He's from Actify, and he is the Spinfire Engineering Manager. And we also have Robert Tadlock, who is our Director of Consultant Engineering. Next slide, please. So we have an agenda here today. We'll go through a couple of things. First off, we'll just kind of give you an overview of who TechSoft 3D is, what Hoops Exchange is, what kind of features and functionalities we have. Then David will give us a Spinfire product demonstration. So he'll show us how Spinfire is using Hoops Exchange. Then Robert Tadlock will be talking a little bit about how to implement Hoops Exchange, what considerations and things you have. And then at the end, we will have a Q&A where you can ask all of your questions and next step. And before we get into it, and I hand it over to Jonathan, just a few housekeeping items about Q&A. First off, please submit all of your questions in the Q&A panel. We'll get to them towards the end. Secondly, this webinar will be recorded and made available after the session. So if you registered, you will get an email afterwards with the recording and all of that good stuff. So without further ado, I'd like to hand things over to Jonathan. Jonathan, over to you.
Great. Thanks, Gabe. And hi, everyone. Jonathan Gerrois here from TechSoft. Excited to talk to you about different things that we have here, our technology, and how to support you developing engineering applications. Many of you might be familiar with TechSoft. Others might not be. Who are we? We are a provider of engineering SDKs, software development toolkits. So if you're a software developer looking to develop 3D engineering software, this is the right place. And we'd love to partner with you to provide you with innovative technology to accelerate your development lifecycle. We've been around for over 25 years now, founded in 1996, spun out of Autodesk. Have a lot of technology that we've acquired over the years to create this portfolio. And that's allowed us to support over 750 different software development companies bring their products to market. We are a worldwide company, somewhat remote, each of us today. As you see, we're all in different countries or different states here in the US. I'm in Bend, Oregon on the West Coast, but we have about 190 people worldwide that are developing software and helping implement those toolkits. And then about half of us are software engineers. We're an engineering first organization and presence throughout the world, but with offices in the US, UK, France, Germany, Japan, and Norway. So no matter where you might be, we usually will have someone pretty close to assist you with your development needs. And what is it that we do? Really, this is what we're excited about, is fueling innovation with unmatched 3D technology. And so we are really excited to take graphics or data access. That's what we're talking about today, data access, simulation and analysis, 3D printing tools. We're excited to take those tools and support you with them and see how you use them and what you do with them to innovate in the market. So that could be building the next 3D printer and the software that runs on it, or it could be creating software for fuel efficient cars or safer buildings and bridges. And it's a real pleasure to see what people are doing in this space and continue to do in this space, and what your next generation of software is. And that's what drives us every day, gets us out of bed every day, is to see how we can help the industry innovate. And we do that with a number of companies, both large and small. So these are all different companies that are using today. We're talking about Hoops Exchange for data access. So data access and translation, just a small group of the many companies we do business with. So it could be startups doing exciting things in 3D printing or artificial intelligence, or it could be large companies like Adobe or Hexagon Metrology or Ansys that need data access as part of their backbone of their applications, or any company in between in numerous markets. So it's not just CAD viewing, it's not just 3D printing, but it could be CAM, or it could be product lifecycle management, or it could be documentation. So really trying to support all aspects of the 3D lifecycle when it comes to engineering and building and construction. So anything that's 3D, that's not entertainment or video games, or we do some in medical, but anything that's really 3D and 3D engineering, we're supporting companies in that space. And we do that with a pretty large portfolio of SDKs. We're only going to focus on just one today, but no matter what your need might be, we have the ability to bring data in and the ability to visualize it on numerous different platforms. So web, mobile, desktop, or specific CAE data. We have modeling tools that either we have internally or many of those we resell from Siemens and MachineWorks and Autodesk. So we do partner with companies to resell their technology as well. We have a number of simulation SDKs and then SDKs for supporting the publishing of data as well. Mechanical CAD, building construction data, 3D PDFs, as well as CAE data. But today, in this large workflow of integrated SDKs, we're going to focus on just one, and that is Hoops Exchange. So this is for data access. We'd love to talk to you about all the other SDKs that we have, but today we're just talking about Hoops Exchange. But we'd be happy to work with you if you needed graphics or simulation and analysis toolkits. Those are available as well. So Hoops Exchange, what is it? Really, the main value here is providing your application access to over 30 different CAD file formats. So those are the major CAD file formats, being able to give you one point of contact, one API that can load all those file formats. A couple other real advantages of using Hoops Exchange. We like to call it data access, not data translation, though we can translate from, let's say, CATIA to STEP. We can bring data in and push data out, but our real focus is on providing access to all of these file formats and rich access. So not just visualization data, but try to get you as much out of those files as possible and do that quickly. So that's also a real advantage of using Hoops Exchange, is trying to bring that in as fast as possible. We like to say that we can read CATIA data faster than CATIA in some specific cases, but it is really fast, particularly because we're accessing the data. We're not changing or transforming or altering it anyway. We're just giving you what's available in the file initially. If you do want to alter it, then we do provide downstream tools that allow you to adapt that maybe to your particular needs, and also low memory usage. So this tool does not plug into, say, CATIA. We read directly from the file. It's a reverse engineering approach to the file format. So you don't need a link to an external CAD system. You don't need to maintain those, and you don't need to have those on your computer. So we deliver you a set of DLLs or libraries, and we just provide you access through those instead of actually talking to CATIA or talking to Creo or talking to SolidWorks. And then we do have a number of tools that allow you to take that boundary representation and take that geometry and adapt it to your specific needs. Let's say you have a solid modeling kernel. We are able to bring that in and provide that support for that workflow. And then one thing we're also very proud of is best-in-class product manufacturing information. Having that rich engineering data that's part of many of these file formats. So one of the things people ask is, well, what do you support? Well, we try to support everything and anything. Some of your major vendors like PTC, Dassault, and Siemens, as well as Autodesk. We support files from those major vendors, as well as your CAD standards. So we are able to read and write STEP, STL, OBJ, GLTF, IGES too. So there's still a lot of IGES data out there, for better or for worse. And then a number of these we also write. So we just don't read. So the ones here in blue, we also are able to write that, as well as a number of building and construction file formats. So we're not just focused on mechanical CAD. So many of those coming from Autodesk, but also one that is very popular is the IFC file format. So this is kind of the important thing, is we give you access through just one SDK. So it's one point of contact, one API that you're creating a connection to within your application, and then providing you access to all of this data, instead of having to maintain multiple integrations with different toolkits. This is just one implementation that allows you access to all this data. And then as new file formats get released, either brand new ones. Let's say Autodesk has a new one that they come out with, say theoretically. We work hard if there's demand for that in the industry to support that. As well, many of these companies, they're all releasing their file formats on a yearly basis. We try to as quickly as possible within 90 days provide access to that. So upgrading our toolkits to allow you to read that as soon as possible. So one of the things we're talking about today, though, is how to implement or Hoops Exchange and what does that path look like? So I'm going to talk about it from kind of a higher level, and then Robert a little bit later now is going to talk about how what tools you have available to you to actually do that. But if you're a software developer and you're sitting down with the Hoops SDK, one of the first things that you would do is start parsing the assembly structure of the file format. So there's a unified assembly structure API that allows you to walk your assemblies, sub-assemblies down to the part level. And it includes nuances for all these different file formats because each CAD system has a slightly different way that they represent models and assemblies. And so we try to support all of that within this one API. Some interesting things might be like assembly level attributes. And so you could have a band that at the part level could be flat, but then at the assembly level applied to it would be some deformation. So we're able to support that. So the band would then be deformed at the assembly level as it's brought together. And one of the areas that Hoops Exchange is particularly strong at is large assembly support, large model support, and not just being able to bring all of that in because of its speed and low memory footprint, but some interesting tools that allow you to load just a subassembly. So we're able to load the assembly tree. And if you wanted to drill down at a particular subassembly, you could do that without loading the entire model, or being able to have shattered assembly support. So mix and match different subassemblies, bring them in from different file formats or from one file format, and being able to load and offload data. So trying to navigate those larger and larger models, and in our space, models are getting much larger. So if I'm a developer and I'm sitting down at my computer and I'm trying to start interacting with Hoops Exchange, this would be the first thing many times that people would do, go down to the part level. And then the next thing that you would be extracting is your tessellated geometry. It's not the only thing that we can give you access to, but this really is your what you would use to visualize. So most graphics engines, you could be using one of TechSoft's, or you could have your own, or you could be going to another graphics engine, perfectly fine, but they like to deal with triangles. Many of these CAD file formats, they have native representation of their triangles cached. So they have to display triangles when, say, CATIA loads a CATIA part, they have to display triangles. Those triangles are cached in the CATIA file. We're able to bring those in immediately for visualization, if that's all you want to do. That visualization might not be appropriate. It could be too dense or not detailed enough. So there's a number of tessellation tools that allow you to either retessellate or tessellate the data there that exists. And file formats like STEP that might not have tessellated data in it, we have our tessellator that allows you to tessellate the surfaces and being able to visualize that, as well as full support for colors, materials, texture mapping, and then for the file formats that support that texture mapping, decal support, or physically based rendering. So it's a slightly new set of ways of representing color and the physical properties like metalness and roughness. We're also able to bring that data in as well. So that would be like the next step. So you have your assembly structure, then I need to see things. So the next thing I would do is bring in this tessellated geometry, be able to display it on the screen. So yeah, that part looks like what I'm expecting. But many times you need to dig deeper because we need to manufacture from the data there. So in addition to just seeing it, you want access to the boundary representation. And so we do give you full access to this BREP, both the topological and the geometric definition of it. And we do that without modification. So this is really important, is if you bring in a surface, a parametric surface, or a 3D surface, or even a NURBS surface, so different ways of representing these surfaces, we don't alter it in any way. So what's in the file what was originally modeled is what we give you access to. So there is no change. That's fast. It's also accurate. It could be bad data in the file. That's possible. But what we want to do is give you true access to what's there. Um, if you then want to change that in some way, we have a number of tools and integrations that allow you to do that. But we do say this is direct access, and there's no black box where we're changing it to adapt the data to our paradigm for how we feel 3D data and topology should live within our system. From there, you can export it if you want, so to standards like STEP and JT, or Parasolid, so that's XT file format, or even ASYS from Dassault Systems, so another file format for modeling. To get it there, there may need to be some data altering to improve the success of moving it to that system. So we do have a number of advanced healing and sewing tools to get it into a modeling kernel, or just to heal and sew the model itself. We see that a lot with IGES files. But one step that people do see a need for potentially would be moving data out of your data access toolkit, Hoops Exchange, to a modeling kernel. The premier one in the CAD industry is Siemens Parasolid, and we have the best integration in the market when it comes to integrating and bringing data from a file into Parasolid. So you can bring CATIA data into Parasolid. You could bring NX data into Parasolid. And we've done that with a multi-year partnership with Siemens to make sure and ensure that the quality of that data and the success of bringing that in is as high as possible. And we see that in a number of different applications. And we also make sure that in addition to that BREP data coming into Parasolid, we also maintain the integrity of other paradigms, which we haven't quite talked about yet, like product manufacturing information. That also is maintained and allows you to kind of build this very rich engineering application. Parasolid might not be your modeler of choice. That's perfectly fine. You could be using Open Cascade or ASYS. We do have a number of tools that allow you to get data into those as well. Product manufacturing information is really important more than ever now, as we see model-based definition, design, and engineering be more and more important and move from 2D to 3D. We just don't have geometry, but we have all the manufacturing information attached to it. So we provide you access to that, both visual PMI, so how it looked in the CAD system, it looks in your application. That's really important. It shouldn't change. And that's actually a hard thing to do, making sure you have a font engine that supports that and you render it properly with all the correct callouts and the leader lines. But then also we provide access to semantic data. So that is this PMI in a machine readable way so that you can make intelligent manufacturing decisions from it. So I can start automating my creation of inspection paths, for instance, or my machining operations if I'm doing CAM. And then we also have this bidirectional link between the PMI and the geometry, and we're able to connect the visual PMI to what it's referring to. So even here in this picture, I've selected some PMI and it highlights the surfaces and that it represents. A new area that we've invested in is CAD features. So that would be your CAD feature tree, whole definitions, whole pattern definitions. So trying to get that rich engineering data out of the file where it exists. So this is particularly for CATIA, Creo, NX, and SolidWorks, and trying to give you as much access as possible to this rich data that you can then do intelligent decisions around. So if you want to identify all of your holes for manufacturing, you can do that within these file formats. So we're trying to provide rich access to all of your data. So we had assembly data, visualization data, and tessellated data. We talked about BREP. We talked about features in your feature tree, and whatever else is in that file, we try to give you access to. So that could be your metadata. Persistent IDs is really important. So as your file might change, your downstream operations can react to that with those persistent IDs. and then any user-defined information as well. And so we're not just it's easy to support some of what's in a file format and extract it, but we try to give you both the breadth and the depth of access to your data in those files. And then where can you access that? So another area we've really invested in is making sure we have broad platform support. So not just Windows, but if you're running on a server, we provide our toolkits on Linux. Your Mac, I know Robert's been running on Mac recently, so we have our toolkits there, and then a subset of our file formats. So not everything. Please talk to us. We also support on mobile, so Android and iOS. So that was a brief overview of all the stuff that Hoops Exchange can do. We'd love to be able to work with you to provide that within your application. I'd like to hand it over now to David, who's now part of the TechSoft 3D family very recently, and he's going to talk about an end user application. So we're talking about software development toolkits. Here's a success story of this being used and implemented within an application. So David, why don't you walk us through what Spinfire is?
Okay, thanks, John. So, hi everyone, I'm David McClure. I'm the engineering manager for the Spinfire team at Actify. So I want to talk a little bit about how we implement the Hoops Exchange libraries. So can we go to the next slide? Thank you. So what is Spinfire? Spinfire is a CAD viewer. It's been around for a while now, about 20 plus years. And we're recently, as mentioned, acquired by TechSoft. So we're part of that family now. Spinfire has a focus on collaboration. So we support many different formats, and we try to make the design easy to use so that anyone in the supply chain can use it, and it's not just for engineers. Can we go to the next slide, please? So here's some of the key features and benefits of Spinfire. So as mentioned with Hoops Exchange, we can support many different CAD formats. We support different languages. We support BREP and tessellation. I'll talk a little bit more about BREP further on. And we have support for PMI and GD&T annotations. So go to the next slide, please. So why did we choose Hoops Exchange? So Spinfire 11 is the version that uses Hoops Exchange, and previously with Spinfire 10, we were using many different importers and different plugins for these. This was a bit of a nightmare for us to maintain, and it wasn't very convenient for customers. You had to update each of them separately. We had to update them separately, and it was just very difficult to manage. So when we started working with Hoops Exchange, it gave us a single point there for us to update. It allowed us to convert easily between these different formats, and it meant we could easily give regular updates to the latest versions. It also conveniently connected to Hoops Visualize, which we use for our rendering and for any interaction with the model. Next slide, please. So for working with the integration, we started Spinfire 11 from the ground up with the Hoops libraries in mind. So we built it with Hoops Exchange to handle all the importing and exporting of files. This would be transferred over to Hoops Visualize, which would handle the rendering, the interaction with the models after they're loaded. And on top of that, we have provided by TechSoft a bridge between these two that keeps them in sync. So they both have their own trees that they manage. Hoops Visualize has a segment tree. Hoops Exchange has a pointer style tree. And when we're making measurements with either side, you want to make sure nothing goes out of sync. And that's managed by the bridge. Next slide, please. So one thing we use, we have a few different analysis measurements that also use Hoops Exchange. So one of these is the model compare, which I was going to show off today. So this uses BREP, so we pass it to Exchange, we pass BREP over, and it allows us to do comparisons between these different models. It lets us get a clear view and tree showing the differences between the two. And customers use it quite often for checking differences in maybe new versions of a part or something that's been updated to show the changes. And I'm going to give a quick demo of that and a couple of other things in Spinfire. So I'll just share my screen. Okay, is that sharing all right? Yep. Okay, so I'm going to start off showing the importer options that we use. So these are made possible with Hoops Exchange. So you can see we have this quite big list of formats that we support. And for each of them, we have options on the right here. So if I click on one, say CATIA5, we can see this list here of all these things we can change. So maybe we want to import attributes here. There's feature trees. Jonathan was talking about that. We might want to change from brep to just tessellation. Anything at all, really. And we can apply that. And next time we open CATIA v5 files, they will be using those settings. So this is made easy with Hoops Exchange. It's just one point that we change. If anything new is added in new versions, it's easy for us to add it into Spinfire. And yeah, so we also have file conversion, which uses similar options. So this is an easy way for us to change from one file to another. So if I just bring in a file here on the left, you can see our import. This is a SolidWorks part. So we can load it in using whatever settings we want, and we can choose which formats we want to export it into. So maybe I want JT, I want Parasolid, I want PRC, and I can choose individual settings for each of those, including the export path. So I won't convert that right now because I want to jump into a model itself to actually show off some of the model compare. Let that load. So one thing I'll show quickly before the model compare as well is, as well as the import, Hoops Exchange also lets us support exporting into quite a few different files. One of the earlier slides showed those, but here are the different formats that we support. So I can take this file here and I can export it using these settings to any of those different formats. Really useful. So we have a model here that it's half of a case for a drill. And if I import this other model, which is a reworked version, you might notice it looked a tiny bit different when I imported, but it's kind of hard to tell. So we have two versions here overlaid on each other, and we want to see what has actually changed between them. So I can take our model compare, I can add each part to those two lists, and I make sure I choose brep here, which is the one that uses Exchange and is the most accurate of the three, and I'll compare the sets. So this will take a few seconds. Right now, the model compare, the pointers for the models have been passed over to Exchange and it's doing the calculation. And when it returns, we'll have a really accurate comparison between the two, which we can navigate through a tree of and check in any configuration we want. So take about 20 seconds or so. There we go. So this is the default view here. You can see there's red and green parts, and one of which showing the added parts and one of which showing the removed in one file. We can move between them to easily show which is which. But if you want to get a bit more detailed, we can actually go into this tree that Exchange provides, and we can hide that and show, maybe we want to show just the faces from the old one that don't match. Yeah. So we can see things that were removed from the old version, or similarly, we could just show what was added in the new version, and it gives a nice, really accurate measurement. The brep is very precise. And yeah, so that's been really useful. We found quite a lot of customers like this feature. Yeah, so that was what I wanted to show. Thanks for watching. I hope it's been informative and shows how useful Hoops Exchange is to us. But I'll pass it back now to Jonathan.
Great, thanks. In fact, we'll have Robert Tadlock start sharing his screen, but thanks, David, for that. Also showing how Hoops Exchange can work with graphics using using Hoops Visualize. And we've been a longtime partner of Actify. In fact, David alluded to they're now part of the TechSoft 3D family. So we are growing our portfolio with an end user industrial applications group. So you notice David has a TechSoft 3D logo behind him as well. And just the future of that product, we're looking to continue to support them with this innovative technology moving forward as well. But now part of a different division of TechSoft. But it's great to be able to partner with him. And I've been working with Actify for 12 plus years now, I believe, in different capacities. But now Robert, our Director of Consulting Engineering, he's going to talk about like, what does this look like and what tools do you have available to actually evaluate Hoops Exchange? How do you do that? And where do you get started?
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. Hey, nice demo, David. Yeah, Exchange has some interesting kind of features that you might not think about in a data access toolkit, and one of them is the model compare. We also can do point cloud comparisons to geometry and BREP as well. So it's interesting to see an implementation of that in a real world application. Okay, quickly, I'll just review. Rob Tadlock here. I manage our consulting team in the toolkits division. As Jonathan said, we have multiple divisions now, so I work in the toolkits and have for most of my career. What I wanted to chat with you about today is kind of what it looks like to evaluate Hoops Exchange. And I guess most of this information I'm going to share with you is pretty generalized, and it applies to any of the SDKs in our portfolio, or really any SDK that you may be looking at, even outside of TechSoft. It's kind of like what I would recommend you do if you're going to evaluate a new toolkit. And this is primarily based on my experience with our 700 plus customers or partners, as we refer to them, and kind of like some of the missteps I've seen them take, some of the things I've learned from them on how to be more effective when evaluating a new piece of technology, that kind of stuff. So I want to share that with you, share with you what it might look like if you decided to take a look at our toolkit. So here's kind of what we're going to be covering today. The needs, what to consider before evaluating, what to expect during your evaluation, and then kind of like next steps after that. And one thing I always like to say when I'm talking to a new prospect is that evaluating a toolkit is kind of like if you've ever done any painting, or like on a car or even in your house, the outcome that you get is generally pretty proportional to the amount of prep work you do. Right. So if you mask off everything really well and you sand and you take your time and you prep your surfaces, you're generally going to get a really nice outcome, from your finished product. And evaluating a toolkit is very much the same. So first off, what I always, when a new prospect comes to me, I say, like, what's your need? Why are you here? Why did you reach out to us? And generally we get a whole plethora of answers. Often it's like, hey, we're building our next generation application. We know we need to be able to handle different file formats from the vendors that we work with and that we collaborate with and that are in our downstream and upstream tool chain. You may want to add capabilities to a current product, right? Like you want to be able to do model comparison or something. You saw that in a cool demo. Oh, I want that in my app, right? So you might want to add that. You may have missing functionality. This could be a missing file format. This could be something that a big partner of yours has come in and said, hey, we absolutely need to support this feature or this file format, or the ability to, move to the web or something. We're do have a collaboration tool. All of these things may have you start looking at vendors for these kind of tools, SDKs and stuff. Another thing that you might want to do, and this is kind of something David mentioned earlier, this is really common, is you want to consolidate your tools and your vendors. When you're relying on multiple toolkits and multiple vendors, one, you've got a different support experience and partnership level with each of these different vendors. You've got different interfaces to your API, so managing different code bases, managing different library versions, updating. The vendors are on different release cycles. Are you able to sync up to your release cycle? So consolidation is a big thing. It's a money saver. It's a quality raiser. It makes your DevOps easier, all that. But then again, there's any number of reasons that you may find yourself looking for a toolkit. And so the main important thing here is to make sure you have that need clearly identified. So when you come talk to your vendor, and we start doing evaluation considerations, and we start planning out, you know why you're here, and you know for sure that you have a need, and you know for sure that you're going to move forward and you're exploring toolkits. We don't mind tire kickers. Like I'm not even kidding. I'm working on an evaluation with a prospect right now that I have been working on personally for 12 years. They've come to me multiple times. There's been acquisitions, been changed. It feels like we're going to get over that line, and that's personally that feels great. I've had to maintain long-term relationship with different management and different structures at this company and stuff. So feel free to kick the tires as well. But I do feel like if you've got a clear need and stuff like that, you're not wasting your time, you're not wasting your company's time, you're not wasting money. So the first thing I like to tell people when they come in, what are you considering for your evaluation? Well, first off, what options are out there? You should clearly identify what vendors are out there, what tools are out there, what file formats are supported by different vendors, what's the cost. And one thing I'm pointing out here is our blog. We have a lot of really great information. What's the cost of a toolkit? How are our SDKs licensed? What do can you give me an estimate of what I'm looking at spending? Also, hey, can you compare some of these different toolkits out here? We're comparing two of our own toolkits here, but we also compare to some of our competitors in the market. And we try to be very objective. We understand that we're not the best at every single thing, but we do feel that overall our partnership model and our tools and our strength of our portfolio is pretty strong. But we want you to know there's other toolkits out there that may suit you, and we're okay with that because we're honest with ourselves, and we understand that we want you to have the best tool for your need again. So I always encourage people to read our blog. New evaluators, we pass these blogs to them all the time. And you can have questions if you follow up questions, any of that kind of stuff. So anyways, your options, that's the first thing to identify out there. Who are you going to evaluate? Because an evaluation is expensive. Are you going to try to evaluate every single toolkit, or are you going to narrow it down? Just make sure you've got that nailed down. The next thing is super duper important is what's your time frame? So do you need to, is there a trade show that you're trying to show a new feature or a proof of concept at? Are you trying to line up with your next release cycle? Do you have a very urgent need from a high value customer? Whoever you evaluate with, make sure that you let them know up front, hey, this is our time frame. This is what we're trying to do. This is part of my success criteria. Like, help me get here, right? So make sure you've got that clearly lined. That helps us scope the evaluation too. If it's a very short timeline, you're trying to get to, in this quarter, trying to show some new feature at a trade show, we're going to say, okay, I'm going to point you in this one direction. I'm going to say, look at these docs, look at this sample, build this code, right? But if you've got a year to evaluate, I'm going to say, let's get you started right at the beginning and work you through the full evaluation process. Next thing, super duper important, and often you'd be surprised, but do you have the resources allocated for this evaluation? And by resources, I don't mean just like, do you have the people hours to do the evaluation, but I also mean, do you have the right resources? So if you've historically been building an engineering desktop application and you want to move to the web, do you have someone who knows modern web practices, who knows what React.js is, Node.js, Webpack, these kind of things? Because oftentimes, even if you just hire a contractor to help you work through that part, it's going to save a lot of time, and it's going to allow your engineers, your geometry engineers and stuff like that to focus on that while not getting bogged down in all of this like crazy technology that is the Wild West in the web. So make sure your resources are lined up. Make sure you have the right people on it. If you don't have the resources for this sprint or something, maybe push the start of your evaluation off a sprint or two until you can plan that out. But it's super important to make sure you do have that. The next thing, do you have any kind of internal or customer sponsor? Who's pushing this? Who's driving this? Do you have a product manager who's driving this? Do you have, like I mentioned earlier, do you have a large customer who's driving this need? Make sure that you clearly understand what they want to see. Do you have all of their requirements? Do you have, you're really, really clear on what they're asking you to do? Sometimes people say, hey, they might have an internal customer and they say, hey, we just built a collaboration tool. And then they come back and they say, hey, look at all these cool features I built. And they're like, no, that's not what I meant. I want you to be able to mark it up and like put little chat bubbles and stuff like that. Oh, I didn't think that. Okay. So make sure that everybody's in alignment there, all your stakeholders. What's your minimum viable product? What do you need to see at the end of this evaluation as far as an application, a proof of concept is? Do you need a vertical slice of an entire new application, or you just need to prove that you can support, all of the models in your test set? All right, I've got 150,000 CATIA models. I need them to be imported, or I need to be able to get to the data for 95% of those, or 90% success rate. Like, those are wildly different metrics, right? And wildly different outcomes. And so, like, let's make sure that you're discussing that with your technical liaison, either the consulting engineer on my team, or hopefully you're working with the technical liaison at another vendor if you are. But make sure that you're letting them know. That helps them scope the work. Again, all of this is about making sure that we're being as efficient with everybody's time and money, and and getting you to what you need to see. The last is then just general, kind of in that same vein, general success criteria. So let's identify, okay, our success criteria is, import these file formats at this percentage. We got performance metrics we need to meet. I need to know that I can import all of them in X amount of time, or I need to be able to import more data than at a higher success rate than this vendor, or I need my application needs to show off the fact that we can compare point clouds to models, or whatever that is. But it's clearly identified, and most importantly, it's agreed upon by the person on our side and the person on your side, because it's just as important for us to make sure that you meet your success criteria, and that we are all happy with this partnership as it is for you. So now we can kind of like get down to like, what does it look like if we start evaluating? So we got a need. We've clearly identified success criteria, and we have a plan for our evaluation. What does that look like? Well, we're going to, if you come to us, you're going to choose what type of evaluation you want to do. So as I mentioned earlier, we've got different ways here. So this is our manage.techsoft3d.com. It's our managed portal. I luckily still have 511 days remaining in my trial, but I can control that. So generally, if you come here, you sign up, you're going to get a 60-day license, and you're going to be able to access all of our tools, actually. You can decide to do a fully self-guided evaluation. You don't need to talk to me, or you don't need to talk to a salesperson. You, right? Like, who wants to talk to a salesperson? You don't need to do any of that. You can come here, sign up, download the tools, and start playing with them. Go through our getting started guide, go through our documentation. What I would recommend you do is come here, sign up, download the tools, and then follow up. Reach out to your salesperson, who will put you in contact with someone on my team. Then we will do an actual, what we call a guided evaluation. These don't cost you anything. They're no different than a self-guided evaluation, but you have a dedicated resource for your evaluation. So what's that look like? You're going to have an initial call with someone on my team who's going to clearly understand your needs, and they're going to make sure that you're not wasting your time. We're going to say, okay, you've just downloaded our web platform. Here's all the tools in that web platform. Here's all the sample code. Based on what you told me, I think you should start here. I think you should look at this tutorial. I think you should look at this sample code. I think you should go to our labs and download this sample project that shows you all this. Here's a really nice forum post or a KB article that might be useful. Just way more efficient. But I get it. Not everyone wants to talk to someone, and I myself am guilty of that. I don't like to watch videos. I don't like to talk to anybody. I'm never going to answer your email if you're a salesperson. So I get it, right? But I do recommend that you try to pair with someone on my team. Then, okay, you've got all the tools downloaded. You got everything. What I usually tell people is, let's do a quick fire test, right? Let's grab some of your files and just like see if we can view them. So you run it, and before you even get into code or whatever. So we've got these other really interesting tools. So on the desktop side, we've got what's called our Hoops demo viewer. You can this is a Windows application, which I'm not running it on my Mac, but you download this tool. It's fully featured. It uses a number of our tools, but most importantly uses Hoops Exchange and Hoops Visualize. You can quickly import, play with your import options, similar to what David showed earlier. You can you can change tessellation, you can retessellate, you can play with everything, incremental loading, all that kind of stuff. Quickly import your models, verify that you can view them, play with them, interact with them, look at the model tree. And this gives you a quick idea of like what to expect when you start digging into code. So you get in there, you prove that you can do these, and then you start looking at the code and say, hey, can I replicate the result that I saw in the demo viewer? For those that are on the web or our different platforms, we also have our, is it open here? Maybe I didn't open it. It's demo, I think it's our demo site. Sorry about that. I thought I had it open. Demo. There we go. So this is just a web-based tool. It's wide open. Anybody can go to it right now even. And we've got a few things for you here. So you can, come on, dismiss here. There we go. There we go. It's a little laggy because of Zoom, sorry. So you can come here, you can open up, we've got some of our own models that you can load and view and interact with here, or you can upload your own models here. So there's, this is another way to quickly view and interact with your models. Now, this is a web-based tool, so it's using our Hoops communicator. So you might, it still give you an idea of what, it's still using Exchange on the server and everything. So you'll still have a clear idea of what kind of things you can import and what and not, and also things that what your model tree will look like, what kind of annotations, views, all that kind of stuff. PMI comes in, so it's still same tool for that. But you may, if you're on desktop and you're going to build a desktop app, I would probably recommend downloading our demo viewer. We also do have cross-platform sandboxes that are desktop applications for different platforms, for Mac and Linux and stuff, that you can use and test and have all the same functionality as our demo viewer. So you've done that, you've played around with some files, you've uploaded some things. Kind of next step is to start exploring code. So what we have here is on each of our platforms, we ship the same sample code and we give you projects to get started. And so what you're seeing here is our sample. This on Windows, this is a Visual Studio solution. It's a make file and a set of projects on Linux and Mac. And I'm using Visual Studio Code here. I've loaded in our basic one. So I always tell everyone, start with the import export tool. It's the most simple tool. It's just a command line utility. Takes an import file and an export file. You run it, boom, you get, and you can come in here and play with your options. So you can set all of your options on this import object. You can set your export options on this export object. With 15 lines of comments, this thing is only 72 lines of code. So this shows you, okay, how's the most basic way I can use Exchange? Okay, this is a next step into like kind of fire testing and playing around with some options and stuff like that. Then I always tell people to move into the big daddy, which is the PRC to XML. So this right here, what this shows you is kind of a full-blown implementation of Exchange. If I were to read every bit of information from the file and want to access and play with it and do something with it and make application decisions off it, what would that look like? So this is this goes through everything. And what this does is it reads everything out and it dumps all of the data into an XML file. But what's the beauty of it is that you can go through each of these different sections and say, okay, how do I get markups and how do I deal with those? How do I get tessellation? How do I deal with that? I want to walk through the topology so I can build a toolpath for my CAM application. How do I do that? Right. So this is kind of where I have people move next. Again, we also have some really interesting projects like this translate to PK parts. This is uses our bridge to Parasolid. So if you're a Parasolid user, you can see here it's doing some Parasolid code up here. We're instantiating a session. You can also choose to run this with an open session already, and then we import everything directly into Parasolid for you, and then you can just start doing Parasolid API calls and all that kind of stuff. Interestingly, like our bridge to the other products, we maintain two-way map so that you can come back and forth. So all right, so that's that. The next thing I always tell people to do, start after you've done this loose integration, so maybe you just use one of our built samples and you convert code and then maybe to a file format you already read like STL, and then you read that in your app. You got this nice loose implementation proof of concept. Then start doing a little bit of a tighter integration, working in some code into your own application, taking some of that sample code, putting it in. And then that's when you're going to start to find like you need more sample code that's outside of the basic code. And so that's when you start to come to, you're going to be using our innovation lab. So labs.techsoft3d.com. We have a bunch of projects here that are open source. And they're on GitHub. So if you click through these, you'll go to our GitHub. You can play around with these. A lot of them are web-based. A lot of them are for Exchange. In fact, we did a proof of concept with our C# wrappers that was in here first, and people implemented that, and then we put it into our product. So there's a lot of really useful code here. Kinematics token engine, all kinds of stuff, some Polygonica. So my team and the technical marketing team and some developers, we often put code in here. You're also going to be using our documentation here. So like if you're going to come into here and there's a bunch of really cool tutorials over here. Basic tutorials, how to file, traverse, write a CAD viewer. There's the programming guide. Then you're going to be in the API guide. So super useful. Next thing is, and this is really important for you self-evaluators, the forums. We've got a knowledge base in here where we put code in here and we answer questions. My team, the support team, engineers, they all monitor this. You can ask questions. We put sample code in here too, things like that. So really useful for a self-evaluator or even just any evaluator really. And I think that's about it as far as things I would recommend you do for the evaluation. And then again, the last line of defense there is your consulting engineer. Even if you started a self eval, you've been working on it yourself for a while and you feel like you need some help, reach out to my team. And then, after that, you've proved all this out. You want the tool. You're going to start exploring licensing options. You're going to look at the cost. Hopefully you've read that cost blog. You're going to reach out to your salesperson. You're going to start talking business, or a lot of times you've got your business people talking to the business people on our side at the same time. You're going to go back, make your case with your stakeholders, prove out everything, and then you're going to become a partner and hopefully be with us for 20 years like a lot of our other partners. So that's all I have today. I'm going to hand it back to Jonathan. I appreciate your time. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that, Robert. We'd love to work with you. We have an opportunity here for some Q&A, and really the first question that people tend to ask is about pricing. So if you could put your questions in the Q&A panel, that'd be great. But just a real quick overview of pricing. This is a starting point. So if you license a single SDK from us, the cost of doing business starts at $33,000 a year, and that's the partnership fee of providing technology support, updates, and then when you start shipping, there is a revenue share distribution fee, and we work with you to determine what that is, depending on your usage, your application, your needs, and your growth. And I would encourage you to reach out to. We don't have salespeople here at TechSoft. We have partner development managers. So we want to partner with you to figure out how we can support you and share in that success of that support. So there is two parts of licensing an SDK, or if you want to use a platform, as you saw David showing what Spinfire is built on, it's built on our Hoops native platform, and so there is a price advantage to using multiple SDKs, so that they're using Hoops Exchange for their data access, Hoops Visualize for their data visualization, and then Hoops Publish to export data as well. And so we'd be happy to work with you on a platform as well. So just a real brief overview of pricing, so you kind of know where you're at, cost of doing business with TechSoft. But maybe we can go back to that Q&A slide, and we got some maybe Gabe, you can help with the Q&A here.
Sure. So we have a couple questions. We have one from Milton that says, can you retrieve format-specific metadata, for example, iProperties from Inventor or attributes from AutoCAD? Similarly, more exotic format-specific metadata like GUIDs.
So most of that data does come in as attributes into Hoops Exchange. Unique identifiers are supported on only not every single file format, and that's primarily because the native CAD file format might not support that in most cases. What I think I could answer more very specific questions if you wanted to. We're going to put my email up here. If you want to email me directly, I can answer exact specific questions. But most of that data that you just talked about comes in as an attribute inside of Hoops Exchange. We bring everything into our internal file format, which is an ISO standard called a PRC. And at that point, yes, that data should all be available. I can't tell you on every single file format right now in the top of my head, like, is this attribute supported, is this one not? But I can point you to where our documentation is at very detailed that shows everything that gets pulled in per format.
Thanks, Robert. We have another question from Suji. It says, with Hoops Exchange, the converter for Creo elements/direct is missing. Is it supported in Spinfire or Ethereum-based converter? I think that's probably a question for David.
We don't currently support Creo Elements Direct. No. Yeah, we just support Creo Parametric for now.
Cool.
And that would be also because Spinfire uses Hoops Exchange.
Yes. Yeah.
We don't. Hoops Exchange doesn't support it either. And then that question also kind of alluded to. We also part of the TechSoft portfolio is Theorem Solutions, which is a software development company based in the UK. They also have a lot of technology, so they're part of our end user applications group, but they also have connections to CAD systems as well. And so there is some opportunity for us for if you are interested in that technology, getting data out of Creo directly. So that is a little bit different approach than Hoops Exchange. We read right from the file without the CAD system. We are continuing to support different attributes, very specific things within these file formats. I know with Creo, we just recently, in our most recent release, are supporting layers within Creo. And there is an opportunity for us to, that was a direct request from one of our partners. So there is an opportunity for us to work with you to support. We don't support everything from every file format. We support a lot from most files, but we can work with you to support very specific things. Theorem being directly connected to Creo, it's very possible that they have access to that data and can provide you API access through their applications. I don't think we have anybody on from our Theorem team today. If you are, maybe we could follow up on that, because that is some new technology here at TechSoft, and just our team doesn't have familiarity with it, but we can get back to you on that as well if we have a solution elsewhere at our company.
Thank you, Jonathan. And one question from Sebastian. Ubuntu Linux is not explicitly mentioned as supported. Are customers using it on that platform anyway?
Yes. Yeah, we support Ubuntu, CentOS/Red Hat. You know, the whole CentOS Red Hat thing has changed. So we're kind of playing with the way we support Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and we're doing that by moving over to a different distro. But yes, Ubuntu is supported. It's probably one of the primary Linux platforms that I see used.
Thank you. And I think we have maybe time for one more question. I got a question. Do you support USD? I think that's for you, Tadlock.
We don't, but it's on our it's on our short-term roadmap. We're actually investigating it right now. So, you know, there's a likelihood that it will be supported, you know, soon. It's something we're actively investigating.
All right, thank you. And I don't think I have, oh, let me see, I have one more question actually. Is it possible to load the natively cached tessellation data and match them to the original BREP entities?
Yes. And that's for file formats that support that, like SolidWorks and CATIA's CGR format and things like that. But yeah, and that's often used for like fast rendering while you load the BREP in the background and stuff. And it is matched to the BREP data under the hood.
One more question, Robert. How many CAD formats have persistence ID support? Is it available for formats such as SolidWorks, Creo, and Inventor? I think we answered Creo already, but
I think it's about 4 or 5. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, grab the link, and I'm gonna share it after in here, or I'll send it to Gabe, and we will follow up with that in the email that we send out to everybody. We have a document that clearly describes what is supported and in what formats for
perfect.
persistent IDs.
Thank you. And it looks like we're at the top of the hour. So while Robert is getting that, Jonathan, do you want to wrap up things?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks everyone for your time today. We appreciate your interest, and we'd be happy to partner with you to provide you access to CAD data or any of our other toolkits. You can sign up for a 60-day evaluation. Robert was showing you that experience if you go to techsoft3d.com. Also there, you get access to our demo tools. So if you want to quickly test our tools, you can download the Hoops demo viewer or go to that web viewer to be able to see our tools using your data. And Robert is your guy if you have technical questions, or his team. So we have a large team that is able to help you create these implementations and answer your technical questions. So they provide developer support. But thanks everyone for your time today. And we hope that you have an excellent rest of your Thursday, and we hope to see you soon.